there is a coup in Togo. That is a constitutional coup in Togo. And that is going to give Faure Gnassingbe the opportunity, the power to rule Togo indefinitely. We cannot mention Africa without mentioning Captain Ibrahim Traore. If we are to talk about the Gaddafi of our time, that is Captain Ibrahim Traore. The Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of our time, that is Captain Ibrahim Traore. Why the people are saying there is a coup in Togo, but then not a gun coup, but a constitutional coup in Togo as we speak. The Gnassingbe family have ruled for nearly 67 years. Eyadema Gnassingbe ruled until his death, and then Faure Gnassingbe came to power after his father's death. That was in 2005, and then since 2005 Faure Gnassingbe have ruled Togo till 2025 as we speak. And then talking about that again, last year May 2024 we heard about the constitutional reforms that came to news. That was in Togo, that was going to only allow members of parliament to elect a president in Togo. Now as we speak, in May 2025, that constitutional reforms have been completed. I have the full details here and I'm going to take you through so that you know the history behind. The people of Togo have been protesting. That was since last year May. There was a serious protest, and as we speak there is a current protest that is ongoing in Togo as we speak. Togo's leader Faure Gnassingbe on Saturday completed a constitutional reform that opponents see as a bid to extend his iron grip to power by taking the title of the President of the Council of Ministers, granting him the country's highest executive office. Now, this is what the people of Togo describe as a constitutional coup that is going to allow Faure Gnassingbe to stay in office till his death. The opposition is not in agreement with the current constitutional reform in Togo, because to allow only members of parliament to vote means that Faure Gnassingbe is going to stay in power for so many years. The people of Togo can no longer vote. The citizens can no longer vote. And I say, what is a country that doesn't allow people to vote to choose their president, but rather only members of parliament? Gnassingbe, who came to power on the death of his father, Eyadema Gnassingbe, in 2005, took the oath as the president of the Council of Ministers, now the highest executive office in the land, following last year's reform. So the constitutional reform is now granting Faure Gnassingbe the highest executive office in the land. Initially in Togo, the people elect their leader, but right now in Togo as we speak, only parliament, members of parliament are going to choose or vote for a president. And in last year, let me read that. Currently, Gnassingbe Union for the Republic Party won 108 out of 113 parliamentary seats last year in a vote. Last year in a vote dismissed by the opposition as a sham. So the opposition sees the parliamentary system as a sham, and that they describe as a coup. So now, what do you think, or what do you make out of the current situation in Togo? Now, a lot of things that are going on in Togo right now means that it is going to affect the country seriously, because we are talking about the point where the people of Togo can no longer go to the polls to elect their president, but only members of parliament are going to elect a president in Togo. So tell me, how is the opposition, because majority is only in the Gnassingbe Union party. So tell me, a country that doesn't allow its own people to go to the polls to vote, how do you describe that country? We cannot talk without mentioning that country as a coup country, because if a country doesn't allow its own people to go to the polls to elect and choose their leader, how then do you describe that particular country? How then do you describe that country? Because that is purely a coup. That is purely what the opposition is talking about. So tell me, why is ECOWAS not going to talk about these things happening in African countries? But ECOWAS was going after Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger for being coup countries, and therefore called for democracy. Do you think if democratic countries are even doing constitutional coups, and then ECOWAS is not talking about these countries, what then do we talk about again? The leader that have been accused for so many things so many crimes that he have not done is actually the definition of Africa today, as we talk about Captain Ibrahim Traore, because that is the leader that is making it all happen. We cannot mention Africa without mentioning Captain Ibrahim Traore. If we are to talk about the Gaddafi of our time, that is Captain Ibrahim Traore. The Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of our time, that is Captain Ibrahim Traore. So the leadership of Africa actually need to change. Africa talks about being independent. We talk about being independent, but still we go to the IMF to borrow. We go to the World Bank. We have the resources, the natural resources. We have the gold. We have the cocoa. We have so many other natural resources that can help develop Africa. But then, what is happening in African countries? Shame on African countries. We go to the West to beg, and yet we cannot use those monies that we borrow from the West to develop our country. But then we run into more debt in the name of trying to develop our country. Burkina Faso's leader, Ibrahim Traore, hijacking 100% gold reserve in Togo, in Burkina Faso, have called for national attention, have called for worldwide attention. And a lot of people are accusing Captain Ibrahim Traore for using the gold for his personal interest, which is not. Because Captain Ibrahim Traore have refused to export gold to the Western countries. And then Captain Ibrahim Traore have decided to cut ties with France. And now people are saying, why will Burkina Faso cut ties with France and embrace Russia? Because that is described as a one-step forward for cutting ties with France and a one-step backwards for embracing Russia. But then, the visionary leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, is making it all happen. With all he can, there are jobs in Burkina Faso. A lot of factories in Burkina Faso. Roads constructed in Burkina Faso. So when you talk about Captain Ibrahim Traore not being a democratic leader, and then we allow African leaders to reform constitution to their own interest and benefit without considering the benefit of the people,